Today, I want to reveal a secret to you that accompanies our powerful transformation, which has now begun. Because massive radiations from the cosmos are really shaking us up quite strongly. And many of us are stuck in truly remarkable transformation processes in our lives that are often overwhelming and challenging. And this is clearly evident in so many ways. Yes, for instance, in the inner changes, in the transformations in perception. Yes, for example, dimension shifts, glitches. Yes, parallel realities that seem to overlap with our reality, but also physical symptoms, massive fatigue, yet at the same time, high activism, actionism, like that. And yes, simply discovering and revealing what is definitely untrue within us, but also what is undoubtedly untrue externally. There is so much happening right now. And today I want to share an incredible message with you, a profound message that I have received from, I can't call it anything else, an intelligence, a cosmic intelligence, a being. And she revealed a secret to me. Well, it was actually more about experiencing what I was allowed to experience. And let's see how I can indeed convey this, because such stories are always incredibly difficult to truly express in words. This is definitely going to be an exciting episode here. Yes. And this secret can simply support you in your awakening. And the Great Awakening is absolutely underway, and you are right in the middle of it. Yes. And it is incredibly exciting. First of all, a warm welcome to your Live Happily podcast. My name is Linda Giese. I have been a spiritual mentor for over 20 years, and I am the author of Consciousness Next Level. Actually, no, I am the author. The publisher is Unum Publishing House, that's right. And I am the founder of the Being Potential Method. In the coming days, we will be hosting one of our very unique live shows again, where I will indeed work with you using this method, applying it live, and you can truly enjoy the experience. You can. And all of this is free of charge. Feel free to sign up. The link is in this info box for this podcast episode. All right, let's get started. You've probably been undoubtedly, definitely, absolutely feeling for some time now that it's becoming increasingly important to really align your inner self internally, as everything that's raging inside you seems to manifest externally quite quickly, right? Yes, so these very narrow worldviews are currently at this moment clashing and conflicting with an emerging newfound inner freedom. And by the way, that also seems to be indeed, in fact, certainly the background for all these anomalies in our perception and the many revelations that are at the present time actually indeed coming into the spotlight. And even some of our own deeply held convictions and beliefs are painfully struck and challenged by a powerful force of unfamiliar and unexpected perceptions and interpretations of reality that we have never encountered before. Yes, and all of this can deeply shake us to our core, waking us up from our routines and lead to a higher state of awareness or unlock this within us. This experience can transform our perception, allowing us to see. And then it just happens that we perceive such unusual things in our daily lives and experiences that we encounter, which are often beyond our usual logical human understanding. And this persistent restlessness that we feel in these perceptions, in these thoughts and feelings, is primarily because we have not yet achieved a state of internal stability and balance within ourselves. And because so much is happening right now, this immense flood of information, our own processes, and this inner instability simply ensure that we also perceive externally how everything is becoming more unstable and seems to be collapsing. Yes, because at the same time, waves of deep disappointments naturally and inevitably open our eyes to larger and more significant connections. And all of this initiates a gigantic and profound collective transformation. What is now indeed coming to light can truly and definitely lead to this emotional upheaval. Additionally, it seems that nature is going crazy. But all the political revelations also give the impression that the old paradigm is indeed seemingly collapsing. But to truly define what is indeed newly emerging, it is incredibly important, vitally important that we divert our attention from the external noise and focus on our inner selves. There is still plenty to do, as we very much need to perform shadow work within ourselves. We need to thoroughly and completely clean up and completely focus on what you truly and genuinely want to experience. Yes, that and really focusing on it means keeping the focus, holding it, holding it, holding it. This is one of the most important things we really need to do now. There's no way around it. Because all the noise and distractions outside, that can negatively impact your energy. And you will soon realize, with what I share with you, how important this is. Just don't ask yourself in your mind where it's going and whether you'll arrive somewhere someday at all, in the end, eventually. These questions are simple, they destabilize you. I understand the questions, but they are not helpful. Because we are now required to move into an expanded consciousness. And there we can develop mystical visions, a strong intuition, as well as a deep connection to our true being and all our potentials. I have noticed for quite some time now that my perception no longer feels bound to the physical reality. That means my orientation system is finding its way better and better, without the security that was or is conveyed to me by the fixed reality. In my recent posts, both on the podcast and YouTube lives, I have recently talked a lot about these various altered perceptions and all the different topics that are happening. So please feel free to listen to it again if you want to, because I simply can't list absolutely everything here and repeat it all. Definitely, for sure. So I have already gone into much more detail about that. Right now, I want to share with you an encounter with a cosmic intelligent being. And that extraordinary event took place during the initial step, occurring vividly in a dream filled with surreal and remarkable details. But this dream was so incredibly real and vivid, and the communication with this mysterious being is still ongoing and continuous, as well as the, well, let's call it visual and sensory perception of this subtle and ethereal being. It is simply clear and obvious, clearly and unmistakably, this particular being is now here and it is indeed in contact with me. And this has absolutely nothing to do with that dream. And thus this message also does not fall under classic dreaming in any way at all. Just to start, you can imagine it, you probably know it from yourself when you want to share extraterrestrial or unusual perceptions. The words needed for that simply don't exist yet. And so listen with an open heart and mind, allowing yourself to fully embrace the experience. Just let yourself be open and see how it resonates deeply within you, touching your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So it all began with me working collaboratively with one of my dedicated and hardworking employees on his personal and professional growth and transformation journey, providing consistent support throughout the entire process. Those were extremely high energy processes and they were very profound. And during this work, a powerful and enigmatic cosmic intelligence, an entity, unexpectedly and mysteriously stood by our side. It first observed us, watched what we were doing, and allowed us to settle into this unusual energetic change by joining us. And it was very clear to everyone that we had traveled a long and challenging journey to finally reach our destination, which was far from where we started. So we found ourselves in a mysterious and unfamiliar energy field, one that is completely unknown and unlike anything we have ever encountered here on Earth. And this being then invited us into its world after some time, to see through the eyes of its world, and showed us what it actually means on an energetic level, what we are doing in this transformation process, my colleague and I. Yes, and thus it not only refers to the work between him and me, but also to the work we do indeed for illustration for our participants. The work you do for yourself is incredibly important and meaningful in the context of your journey. Yes, this shadow work we do, these transformation processes we undertake, they have a much higher purpose than the crude things we can perceive here in this world and the universe. First of all, it became clear that we are permitted to thoughtfully alter the various beliefs and perceptions that we hold about the intricate world around us and about our own identities. And there, it was shown to me on an energetic level, and I was properly guided to help my colleague through his transport information process. And I can explain it to you best with an example, because otherwise I just can't put it into words. Period. Yeah, I don't know how active you are yourself, whether you've ever shot a video with your phone, whether you have an editing app where you can splice film scenes together, maybe create smooth transitions, and basically cut together the best parts or what you want to say from everything you've filmed. But you've definitely seen something like that before. Yeah, maybe in an Instagram story, a reel, or here on YouTube or wherever. So, how do we proceed? We take the things that we find truly meaningful or the really beautiful things, we cut them out and edit them together like in a movie. And that's exactly how our transformation should absolutely indeed take place. And it's not just about understanding that we essentially cut out the ugly parts and throw them away, but it's really about focusing on the good aspects of life, emphasizing the importance of maintaining a positive. Most people edit their life movie by cutting together all the dramas, the highs and the lows, and focusing intensely on what just didn't go so well, often overlooking the mundane but beautiful moments. And they identify with the dramas of the world, with the dramas of their own history, with the dramas that might indeed happen. My entire social media network is full of terrifying news, and that is also unwise. So this entity has clearly and unmistakably shown me what we are doing, that we are indeed reacting to all of these terrifying news and our own interpersonal dramas. This is the worst, the absolute worst thing we can do. Because the message is quite simple at first. Focus firmly on what we truly want to experience. Absolutely. Healing your own story heals all the dramas we experience in our lives. And that was one of the most incredibly intense messages because I truly got to experience it. It's not just that this is somehow food for the brain, but in a way I was actually able to experience it. In fact, all the dramas are not true. Some people might be quite surprised right now because they indeed experience it as so true. This entity said they only exist as long as we believe in them. And that's naturally tricky because we've experienced a lot of dramas. It's embedded in our cellular memory. We see the chaos on the outside, in the midst of all the noise and confusion, and yet the message was so simple. It was just so clearly and unmistakably straightforward. They are not true. They are indeed only true as long as we believe them. I tell you, through the absolutely energetic experience, I was just there. I couldn't stop being amazed. I always just said, wow, that's so awesome. Unbelievable, that can't be true. And at the same time, something within me was very calm and very confident because it is so simple, yes, indeed. And at the same time, I was allowed to experience, it was shown to me that we humans, I don't know, when you look in the mirror, you probably see a body like mine, right? With 2 arms, 2 legs, ideally, and a head, a torso, but that's not how we actually look. It's so mind-blowing, so astonishing, so beyond comprehension. And there's a huge, incredible, unbelievable secret behind it, a secret that is so profound, so deep, so extraordinary. The being showed me in a manner both enlightening and unsettling what we humans really look like. And I was not only allowed to look at it, but I was also actually allowed to experience it from the inside, because every single person is truly an energy sphere. This solid physical form is just an expression. In its essence, yes, in reality, it is indeed. How can one understand this? An example is when you look in the mirror in the morning feeling really, really grumpy and just don't feel like starting the day, maybe because it's raining outside again. Yes, that's indeed an expression you can encounter when you face your reflection. But you can also express yourself by smiling. Yes, indeed. So expression can take many forms, not just through talking, yes, and speaking, but also through singing, dancing, inner attitude, yes, and also through energy and authenticity as well. This is how energetic beings perceive us, such as angels and ascended masters. This cosmically intelligent being, whatever it is, has not presented itself to me as an angel, a master, or anything else, but simply as something that. The thing is, these beings perceive us as spheres with different energy frequencies and vibrational patterns. Just like each sound has its own frequency, or each color has its own frequency with its distinct characteristics. So these beings perceive us as energetic spheres, not only in different frequencies, but also in different color vibrations and tones. This unique perception allows these beings to interact with us on a deeper, more meaningful level. Each of us has our own unique sound and vibrations that define us. These vibrations, the higher they resonate, the higher this metaphorical sphere rises. At the same time, we emit energy around us. We are like spheres that rotate and interact in complex ways, influencing each other's energy and creating a dynamic system. So I was able to experience it myself. And I always explained to employee how I did it. And he was able to follow me perfectly and then did it as well. So in this training, I had contact with this being and then shared my experience and knowledge, what I was experiencing and learning at that moment with him. And he imitated it, and it was totally awesome because we then flew. So we took what we truly are, namely this energy sphere, this, that, this. We took that and rolled, so to speak, flying through space, basically, in essence, essentially, after all. And the same time, we were upright the whole time. So we weren't knocked over while rolling, but we were upright in our consciousness while the energy field around us was in constant motion. That's not entirely new to me in principle, but experiencing it like that was really quite unique in any way. Yes. And through this movement, through this rotation, through this energetic influence on its own frequency, this sphere naturally also emitted constant energy like sparks it gave off. And these sparks didn't just fizzle out. They were like their own worlds being created, each one bursting with energy and potential, forming new realms of possibility and wonder. Yes, like blueprints, they were creating, generating, and designing new structures and models and innovating. And depending on the vibration, certain information is naturally contained in it at this point, which you essentially fling away from yourself. And this kind of information then takes on a form of reality. First, an energetic reality. Yes, indeed, actually. And here it is incredibly important to understand that our inner beliefs, which are the deeply held convictions and thoughts within us, are responsible for guiding us towards our goals and aspirations. These beliefs shape our actions and decisions, influencing. This essentially implies that we are like spheres, energetic and dynamic spheres, always in constant motion, perpetually moving and interacting with our surroundings. We are energy beings as human beings, and we emit energy in various forms constantly. We generate blueprints in the process. There are an incredible number of blueprints and designs in the space, and at the same time, we are simultaneously fascinated by certain topics. And we move towards these topics, or essentially, in a way, so to speak, attract them. And that will then determine our next experience of reality, for example, through various ways, which shapes how we perceive reality. I sincerely hope I can somehow manage this reasonably well, but I'm very sure you are extremely smart and you'll figure it out. You can think of it similarly to an algorithm. So if you are watching this video on YouTube, let's assume YouTube knows what interests you and will suggest other similar things on your homepage in the future. And so you shouldn't be surprised by the various types of information that YouTube constantly suggests to you. Definitely. This mental conditioning that indeed takes place, you actually create it yourself through your interest, through your concentration, essentially, in reality. And your primary focus and attention is then your free will, which you can endeavor towards in essence. If you don't do it, if you don't make an effort, your inner beliefs will just lead you to click on this or that, yes, because you'll somehow get carried away in any way, shape, or form whatsoever at all. So this implies that you have the power to decide what life offers you, much like how an algorithm determines outcomes based on specific inputs and predefined rules. Yeah, it always makes sense to tell the algorithm what you don't want to see from time to time, right? I do that too, right? Then there's a phase where I let myself get caught up here and there, watching something incredibly attention-grabbing, captivating, and intriguing, and you can set your watch by it. These phases occur so predictably that it's almost like clockwork. I constantly get suggested things like this, so I regularly have to go through the trouble of correcting it, simply saying, no, I don't want to see stuff like that. You can click on that. Sticking with the YouTube example, you just click on the 3 dots and select, don't recommend this anymore. That's how it is in life as well. In general, you have to correct, you have to take responsibility for what you send out and for what you are moving towards, meaning what you are interested in fact. We simply can't escape from the number. And to ensure this correctly and effectively, I consistently and without fail say we need to thoroughly clean up within our own selves, because we are accountable and responsible for how things persist and continue for us, based on the illustrative example I recently sent you. Yes, by the way, this morning I just actually called my employee directly. So, I'm telling you, that was a night we worked so hard. It was incredibly fascinating, absolutely and truly unforgettable. I always thought, man, this is so intense. You have to remember this. This is so intense. You have to remember this, because the way to keep those energies so high, like really constantly blocking out everything that doesn't align with your truth, or in this case, my truth, and healing everything that still pops up in me as beliefs, and really making an effort. Yes, really having the attention to notice everything that's going on inside me and being mindful of each and every detail. Also taking responsibility for what I emit and what I am also interested in my life as well. So when I woke up this morning, I was really drenched. My bed was drenched. And from this drenched state, I indirectly reached out because I was also afraid that everything I had perceived would fade away. And I tell you, I must say, without a doubt, you can probably already imagine it in your mind quite vividly. So you can really guess 3 times my colleague indeed took off his shoes, because he had hardly at all slept that night, as he had an enchanting and magical night. Yes, he wasn't dreaming like I was, but he was actually awake and fully aware. And he was going through so many various and different insights and events. It was like a high, except he was completely and utterly and absolutely and totally sober. And he kept thinking, what is going on here? Insights opened up, dimensions, parallel realities revealed themselves. So it was a highly vibrating field. And he also experienced himself in his own mastery in various ways and situations. It was like bam, an explosion of realization. Yeah, it hit me hard. And yeah, for me, it was absolutely clear that he must have had similar information himself, without a doubt. That's the only reason I had the courage to approach him so early, because I knew he was really involved. It wasn't just a dream. Yes, indeed, definitely, absolutely. Yes. And his experiences, his insights matched my story absolutely exactly and incredibly precisely. The conclusion that I draw from this, and would like to briefly summarize for you, is that your life is solely a constant repetition of your worst stories, which you keep telling yourself or are silently convinced of, until you write yourself a new story. why I tell the worst stories. Why don't I tell the most beautiful stories? Because it's important. That was also an important message, which I have mentioned here countless times, but I am happy to repeat it again in this context. We have descended into a state of exile in order to redeem the unconscious mind, seeking to bring awareness and understanding to the hidden depths of our psyche. And indeed, our worst thoughts, our worst stories are ultimately stories or thoughts of unconsciousness. And also that we keep them so alive within us to the point that we project and experience them externally. And because these dramas take hold, it is an act of unconsciousness. And we are here. This is ultimately the awakening to redeem the unconscious. That means it is a millennia-long journey of human history, this evolution. And we are now in such an incredibly exciting transition that it's finally succeeding. Yes, so your ancestors, including your parents and their parents and so on. Yes, thousands of years back. So this whole story is a collective project. Yes, everyone definitely contributed to that. And yes, okay, nothing more. Let's put a period at the end of this sentence. It's important you find stillness in your thoughts, and I noticed this in the past few days. I was sitting on my staircase of happiness, and suddenly it became completely silent, almost as if time itself had completely stopped. That's when I first realized how incredibly loud it had been before, almost deafening. So I came out of a crazy, chaotic noise at exactly 5:30 in the early morning, and suddenly, without any warning, it became eerily quiet, almost as if the world had stopped. That was the noise in my head. Outside it was quiet, except for the birds. Yes, but even they weren't that loud that day, indeed. My head was so incredibly loud before. I would wake up and there was a constant quacking inside me, but I didn't even really notice it. And that's just how it is. That's actually the unconscious. Yeah, and do you know that feeling when you're driving and you have the side window open or the sunroof, that rushing sound? And then when you close the window, let's stick with the window. And suddenly it's so quiet and you realize, oh, thank God, peace. I had such an experience on my staircase to happiness, and suddenly it was quiet in my head. And this silence is just so incredibly important, because then we have access to our being and have the opportunity to start consciously guiding our thoughts again. And only when we can consciously guide our thoughts can we free ourselves from the illusion of what we have previously believed to be true. And this is now intensely in the focus of a remarkable and significant number of people who have long and with great dedication embarked on the journey of spiritual awakening. Not everyone will be affected by it. Some people are simply not open to it yet. As we have often said, we can leave it completely without judgment. There is nothing to evaluate. You are definitely important. Yes, and it is also absolutely important that you don't let others hold you back. For example, misunderstood loyalty or out of fear of being different or of being alone, sometimes or often perhaps. I read that so often. Oh, I have no one here to talk to. I have no like-minded people. I was completely lonely for years, really many, many, many years, and I pulled through. I was really, really lonely for what seemed like a very long time throughout those years. Or nowadays, it's different from how it was for me back then. Find like-minded people. It's so much easier and simpler online. Yes, you can connect so well, and we experience that in our program too. So our participants, when they have completed our program, always give wonderful feedback, which is amazing. But one piece of feedback is always so exciting. Besides the coaches who are praised and the program and the great insights that are shared, it's also about the camaraderie, the team spirit among the other participants. So the group dynamic is incredibly valuable. It's naturally extremely valuable to find people who think like you, who are on the same journey as you, positive, supportive people. Even in our bubble, there are people who can bring you down. Naysayers, I don't mean them, I mean positive people. And even if you are a naysayer, align yourself with people who are positively oriented. Not those glittery unicorns where everything is always perfect, but people who work on themselves and carry a fundamental optimism within them. They simply know that challenges are ultimately the best opportunities for growth. Yes, those who don't bury their heads in the sand and blow a negative horn, but tackle the issues. Yes, and are focused on growth. Yes. Yes, it is definitely an incredible challenge that truly lies ahead of us. So what lies ahead is undoubtedly profoundly challenging. How do I know this? Because this entity has truly accompanied me into it, actually. And what it showed me is relieving. I will tell you right away. It reminds me of an experience I had when I was on a spiritual journey with my shaman. And we were working with the strongest medicine in the world. That was some crazy shit. And now, this very evening, it got me again. I was able to experience it once more, time again. Because the deepest and most profound difficulty, the greatest and most formidable challenge that lies ahead of us all, is the act of surrendering completely and wholeheartedly. The dedication to our true greatness, and I say this clearly, this phrasing is seriously lacking, I just don't have a better one. Because that is real, you can imagine it. Let's really stick with this example of the sphere, or you can also imagine it like your chest and your head. You have rings around you like chains that keep you small. Yes, indeed. These are indeed your restrictions and limitations, your boundaries, and the surrender to your true greatness, truly. You will notice that you hit this limit and it terrifies you to go beyond it. Yes, that you might not have expected, indeed. It is indeed a process that goes inward. That's why this outward explosion is only half true. That happens too. But at the same time, you definitely go inward. So it's about going inward and then exploding into this vastness. And with a dedication that can be described like falling backwards off a cliff, hundreds or thousands of meters high into the depths. And it is incredibly frightening to surrender to one's true greatness. And this challenge, this is the toughest thing coming up, because you will also reach the limits of your beliefs. Your what do I consider to be true? So, for example, if you have perceptions that don't align with the normal reality as you know it, as you grew up with, yes, as it has always been. Indeed, your mind has no other option but to think. If you then experience something unusual in any way, you're crazy. Be careful. You shouldn't get involved in that situation at all. Something is definitely not right. You're just imagining it. And also such legitimations. Am I even allowed to perceive myself in this magnitude, which always involves a form of power? Am I allowed to perceive myself in this magnitude or this power at all? Am I allowed to do that? Yes. Who should ultimately allow you to do that? Yes, at the end of the chain, it is the divine who can or may definitely allow you. Yes. And indeed, many people are not only afraid of this judge in this life, but also truly afraid of the judge after life. So this brings us to the question, can I do this? It actually has a much deeper meaning. There, the church, or well, the churches, this is now certainly indeed independent of religion. They truly did an incredible job making us truly grasp how immensely small we are in this limitless universe, as if they painted a vivid picture of our minute existence in the grand scheme of things. And addressing and resolving that is indeed one of the greatest unconsciousnesses. In fact, it is extremely intense. And this is not a mental enlightenment in any way either. So anyone who just parrots something without having experienced it themselves at all, this is like an implosion, an explosion. It can feel like dying inside in a profound way. It's like a A universal orgasm, yes, where you feel like you're splitting into 1,000 pieces, yes, and you feel like you're losing yourself and you feel like you can't handle it. But you can definitely handle it. Yes. And that is just so immensely fundamental. Absolutely. It was clearly and vividly shown to me what I have been consistently and repeatedly saying for some time now. You are indeed the portal. You are truly the portal through which all existence in its entirety comes into being. This is almost unbelievable for our minds, a concept that stretches the very limits of our understanding and cannot be understood with any spiritual beliefs, or it is deeply, profoundly spiritual in ways that transcend ordinary comprehension. But let go of all the spiritual statements you've heard before that help you understand what I'm trying to tell you in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Feel it. Everything we are discussing here today, you can only feel. Your mind is the greatest limitation, and that's its job. So that's correct. It's allowed to do that. It has to do that. He has to separate the apple from the pear. Yes, if he doesn't do that, one thing is this, the other is that. But the mind is not indeed your controller. It is, in fact, your truly loyal servant. He can be helpful on your journey to awakening, to sift through everything, to sort it out, and neatly organize it into compartments. But he is not the one who should take the lead in your life at this particular point in time. Yes, indeed, you absolutely need to guide your thoughts. You can't leave it to your mind to think on its own. If you do, it will think whatever it actually wants, and that usually doesn't lead to anything good. You must guide your thoughts and understand that you are the portal through which all existence comes into being. This is a mastery of creation that indeed wants to be consciously led, truly, certainly, actually. And this special role is assigned exclusively to humans and indeed uniquely only to humans in particular. This has to do with the fact that we can choose, that we can decide, and that we can also understand the consequences. That's why humans are indeed so significant at this point, as a matter of fact. And if you have been listening to or watching this content up to this very point in time, then it means that you are fully prepared and ready to proceed further. And that means you can no longer stop the process of liberation in any possible way. Absolutely. You can only choose whether it transforms you slowly and yes, painfully, or whether you transform yourself, thus moving into liberation. The gateway to the new earth and the pathway and the journey to a new beginning, the gateway is wide open within you. Now is the time to make a concrete decision for the new earth, to maintain focus, to take the highest form of responsibility for your focus, for your decisions, for your alignment, for what you allow, the highest responsibility for the healing within you, truly cleaning up within yourself. This is indeed now, this is truly what is up next. And this is absolutely genuine mastery for those for whom it is really at the present moment indeed now time. And I find it incredibly awesome, really. So here's another invitation to our live show. It's exactly about these topics. Yes, and if we're not connected on Instagram yet, please make sure to definitely join and absolutely let's interact there as well. I think it's super awesome that we're all together on this exciting journey, as one, as a ruler of brave souls, who are collectively shaping or continuing this process of evolution into the new era, to emphasize our unity and shared vision. With unwavering commitment and passion, we are all contributing to this transformative journey. With love, the very best for you, dear and always beloved sister in spirit, your Linda, forever.